pastor from back in the day. He's also a local lawyer. So if you need a lawyer, better call Tim. Tim is also a cultural critic, and here we are. Tim has a speech. His speech title is Those Other Lawyer Shows, and then you've got Better Call Saul. So here we are. Please welcome Tim Nardell.
So my speech is actually called Those Unwatchable Lawyer Shows and Better Call Saul. As you all know from hearing Steve's intro, in real life I do play a lawyer. And I've watched these lawyer shows all my life, a little bit. My mom was really into Perry Mason. You all remember Perry Mason growing up in the 60s and 70s? Every episode was a different case, and Perry Mason did every episode. No nuance at all. You knew 35 minutes into the show, the surprise witness was going to come out to the back, and he would solve the problem in the 48th minute of the show. And the girl at the end would say, "Perry, you're so great." And his secretary would write it all down. Through the 80s, 90s, into this decade, there's been so many of these lawyer shows. I think in a way we're obsessed as a culture with lawyer shows because they kind of have a semblance of reality. And it's in the law courts, we think, as the television audience, that's the place where moral dilemmas get worked out. And so we have these shows that show us how these moral dilemmas get worked out in the courtroom. And for me, they're absolutely unwatchable because they have no relationship to what lawyers really do, to what moral dilemmas really get worked out in the courtroom. There's no nuance in a different way because they're so exaggerated. The ups and the downs are so high and low. There was a show, I'm not going to name the name. It was a pretty recent show, though. In the third episode, the lawyer is telling the court, the judge, that he's so corrupt that he can't decide the case fairly, and the judge is actually persuaded by the speech and decides to go in his direction instead of throwing him into contempt. And he's celebrating with his client, and she's run over as they're walking out of the courtroom by the bad guys, who he has to spend the rest of the season getting. I couldn't watch the rest of the season. I read about it on one of the websites to get the gist of it. But there's one show that's different. It's a show that's on right now, and it's called Better Call Saul. How many of you all watched Breaking Bad? Quite a few people. A few, half. And how many people have watched Better Call Saul? Okay, a guilty pleasure for a few people here. So Breaking Bad is a story of a high school chemistry teacher turned crack or methamphetamine dealer. And every episode, it's Breaking Bad. Every episode is a moral dilemma, and he makes the wrong choice in every episode. 5 seasons of it. It's relentlessly crushing the endless array of bad choices. And there's a big character in the show called Saul Goodman. He's the lawyer. He's a criminal lawyer. Not in the sense that he practices criminal law. He's a lawyer who's actually a criminal. We first meet Saul Goodman, and his real name is Jimmy McGill. He calls himself Saul Goodman to relate to the homeboys, he says. Saul Goodman. We first meet Saul Goodman when he's begging for his life from a couple of drug dealers and using real lawyer skills to talk his way out of trouble. And by the end of that Breaking Bad, we see him breaking down the walls of his office to get all the money out that he's been stealing from drug dealers all the way along the road. That's Breaking Bad's Better Call Saul. In the series, Better Call Saul, he's the main character. And it's really about Jimmy McGill, a lawyer who's trying to do the right thing. He's a guy who's by nature a con man. And he comes to the town of Albuquerque to visit with his brother, Charles McGill, who runs the best firm in town. And McGill is in the name. Hamlin McGill. And Jimmy gets a job as the mail clerk in his brother's firm. And let's bring it back to Toastmasters and mentoring. It's a great mentoring example of reverse mentoring. Here's this kid who's looking for direction. He's looking for his big brother to show him the way and teach him how to be a great lawyer. And his brother wants nothing to do with him. Gets him a job with a mailroom when he goes to law school at night by himself, keeping it secret from his brother and everyone else, and finishes. Everyone's so proud of him, except his brother. Says it wouldn't be proper to hire Jimmy for this firm because that would be nepotism. Hamlin McGill, father and son, are already running the firm, but that would be nepotism. And through Jimmy's eyes, who's trying to then become a solo practitioner, we see so many dilemmas that are really lawyers face. It's the only show that shows you, they're exaggerated, it's a caricature, it's a show, but it goes very slowly, it develops slowly. There's no shootouts, there's no courtroom drama. He gets a client, and he has to help the client, sometimes against their own wishes. Now, he does crazy things. A school board member who's embezzled $700,000 and doesn't want to admit to anyone, even his lawyer, that he's guilty. And everyone knows he's guilty. His guilt's written all over him. He decides the best way to help this guy is to hire someone to steal the money from the guy's house and then present it to him in the office and say, I'm returning the money for your own good. He deals with his brother, who's also a great archetype of a lawyer. He's the kind of guy who never can make a mistake. And so when he makes a mistake, he comes up with an elaborate scheme that it was all Jimmy's fault. Turns out he was right, but the phobia, it really shows how lawyers think. There's also the love interest. Kim Wexler is a great person, trying so hard to do the right thing and to be a just and honorable lawyer. So many good examples of good proteges, good mentors, real characters, real situations. It's a 5-season show. No one so far has gotten killed on the lawyer side. It's just about character development and how people interact. I recommend you call Saul. Thank you.